I made a video a while ago called If the Soviet Union and the United States Were Allies. This video got a lot of attention, and one YouTube user, Quinn Parker, asked for me to do a video called If the United States and Soviet Union Were Both Communist. This no doubt intrigued me, so I decided to do the video. So let's get to it. During World War II, the United States and Soviet Union were allies. During this war, together, the two nations and others brought about the downfall of Hitler and the Nazi Party. When the war ended in 1945, these two countries emerged as the world superpowers, the two most powerful nations in the world. When the war ended, the two superpowers had very different ideas of how Germany and the world should be restructured, which initiated the Cold War, spawning regional hot wars such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War.
Now you haven't earned a right to be here. Do you understand that?
The United States naturally wanted many nations such as Germany, Korea, and Vietnam to be rebuilt along democratic capitalist lines, while the Soviet Union, being a communist country, wanted the nations to be rebuilt along Marxist lines. Because of this, the Soviets moved quickly to establish communist puppet governments in occupied countries. But if the United States was a communist country alongside the Soviets, chances are there would be no Cold War, as the two superpowers worked together instead of against each other, and helped the Soviet Union turn all of Europe, Korea, Vietnam, and other parts of the world into a form of government they wanted. Both Joseph Stalin and Mao killed millions of people under their leadership. Now many may disagree that it was Mao or Stalin that did the killing.
No way.
Regardless, under their leadership in their country, millions did die, and millions lived in fear as the two dictators ruled. It is said that people feared Stalin due to him doing whatever was necessary to achieve the goal, no matter the cost. He did whatever was necessary to keep his country in line. That included harsh punishments.
They're human beings.
You're like a blind kitten, comrade. So good, so pure. But you just can't see. You must understand. You must believe that everything I've done has been for the ultimate good of the people and the welfare of the Soviet state.
As for Mao, New York Review of Books tells us he was a tyrant whose policies and decisions caused the deaths of an estimated 42.5 million people, though the Los Angeles Times estimates the figure could be as high as 80 million people, which incidentally means his death toll may as well be higher than Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler put together. Who's to say the same thing wouldn't have happened in the United States if the United States wasn't the same form of government as the Soviet Union and China? In the previous video, I mentioned how NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, may not exist, for it was created due to many European countries becoming concerned the Soviet Union may invade them, as they had control of Poland, Romania, Czechoslovakia. So in order to stop the Soviet Union from invading more of Europe, NATO was created. So an attack on any of the countries part of NATO would be an attack on all the countries that is part of NATO. This meant the Soviet Union wouldn't just be going up against one or two countries, but a combination of countries and their military, including the United States. However, if the United States was a communist country, it doesn't mean that the European countries wouldn't still have created NATO, but it would be hard for the European countries that are part of NATO to go up against both the United States and the Soviet Union. Instead of North Korea not existing, this time it's South Korea. During the Korean War, the United States came to the aid of South Korea, fighting North Korean forces back into North Korean territory, and would have most likely overthrown the North Korean government. That was until Chinese forces came to the aid of North Korea. In the end, it was decided by the United States and Soviet Union that there shall be two separate countries divided by the 38th parallel. However, I don't think there would be much of a war if South Korea had to go against North Korea, Soviet Union, Chinese forces, and the United States forces. I would say the same goes for Vietnam, as they would have to go against Northern Vietnam, Soviet Union, and United States. The countries would know that they wouldn't stand a chance, and if they still fought, it probably wouldn't be much of a war, as they would be going up against the northern rival plus the two superpowers. Even though both countries in this alternate reality are socialists/communists, that doesn't always mean both countries do have the best relationships with one another. For example, both Joseph Stalin and Mao had the same ideology in government and both were tyrants, but both men hated one another. The only thing both men agreed on and agreed to work together was the Western countries, such as Europe and the United States, posed a threat. They constantly tried to outmaneuver each other but rarely could pull it off because both read each other like an open book. If it wasn't for Western countries fighting against both China and Soviet Union during the Cold War, then who's to say Mao and Stalin wouldn't have been fighting one another? Chances are the Soviet Union and the United States would have felt the same way about one another, both nations hating one another with a passion, both feeling the same way about government, but both being superpowers, both feeling it will only be a matter of time until the other would have to dominate the other. Maybe it wouldn't be too different after all. What do you all think? Is there anything I missed? How else would the world be different if the Soviet Union and United States were both communist countries? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked, please subscribe. And I will see you next time.